Hey everybody, it's February 16th, 2023, and this is the Backdrop Weekly Developer Meeting. We are getting together this week, as we do every week, to talk about priorities and things that are happening in the Backdrop world of development. Let's see, we have let's do introductions. Small group today. Just three of us so far. My name is Nate Lampton. I'm Quick Sketch on the internet, core committer and technical lead for the Backdrop project. Luke, could you give an intro and then we'll go to Jen?
I'm Luke McCormick. I'm a web project manager in San Ramon, California. And I'm particularly interested, as always, I'll just reiterate, in kind of low code solutions and enabling migrations from other platforms.
Great, thanks, Luke. Jen?
Hey, I am Jen Lampton. I'm joining from Oakland, California. I'm very excited. I got a bunch of time to work on a handful of backdrop sites that haven't been getting regular maintenance for the last few months. So they're all on a previous version of Backdrop Core and really old versions of modules. And I'm going through and updating everything. And it's so exciting. I just wanted to share this because looking at how much activity has happened in the contrib modules like in the last year, just with all of the new updates and all of the PHP 8 support and all of the great stuff, it's just really fantastic to see all of the activity that's been going on in the community. So I am full of enthusiasm for everyone and all of the work that they've been doing for the past year. So that's all for me.
Great. Speaking of things that are happening in the world of Contrib, could you give us an update on new projects that have been created or updated?
Yeah. So in the last week, we have Graphics Magic, which I think is an add-on for Image Magic module. Provides an image toolkit that uses, oh, it's Gmagic, the Gmagic PHP extension. CK Editor Blocks, this is the module we talked about. I think we talked about it quite a while ago, where we're trying to be able to embed a block inside the CK editor, which is a little tricky because blocks in Backdrop are super different from how they were in Drupal. And we have a first release of that out that allows custom blocks to be embedded and it allows views blocks to be embedded. And it now has an API that will allow us to enable individual block types going forward so that if somebody says, I want web form blocks, we can go and turn them on for web form blocks and make sure that those work okay too. And a quick shout out to Juan, who has been doing a ton of work on a bunch of these Backdrop Kinship projects lately. And I'll mention him later too. And then I think alt title default came out last week, so it might have been mentioned in last week's meeting, but I know Nate and I weren't here, so I just wanted to say it again, just in case no one mentioned it. We do have a core issue about enabling alternate and title attributes for images and setting them to be required. And this is a contrib module that allows you to do just that.
All right, great. One other community mention, and this was discussed a little bit in Zulip, I think, but Jen and I just discovered it this past week, and that is a mention from one of our highly prolific community members, Robert Lang, aka Bug Folder, was quoted in National Geographic
Mm.
on the future is folded is the title of the issue, and there's a whole article on origami, and Robert is the very first quote in this article. I just can't keep up, says Robert J. Lang, preeminent origami artist who previously worked as a laser physicist. That's just a wonderful place for this field to be. So, wow, how cool is that? Like, quoted right in National Geographic. There we go, Robert. It's all backwards for me, so I can't actually read it now. But
You can read
anyway,
it.
super cool. Congratulations, Robert. Obviously, uh, maybe not so obviously, but Robert is a highly experienced origami artist, as National Geographic says. uh,
Also, he made an origami dragon for Backdrop, which I think is his Zoom profile image, which is really cool. And his name is Bug Folder. He obviously does bugs also. But yeah, I was reading the article and I was like, oh, I thought to myself, this is really cool. I should tell Robert about this article. And then I got to the paragraph and I was like, how silly would that be if I told him about it before I read it and saw that he was mentioned in it? And then when I came to Zulip to brag about it, it turns out that he'd actually let everybody know about it like a week earlier. He's like, hey, just so you know, there's this article coming out. And I totally missed that. And I still found him in there, which was even more exciting. So it's like, yeah, I was like, I know this guy. There's this guy in this magazine. I know him. It's pretty cool. Oh, there we go. Neat. Found the origami dragon. Yeah, super cool. He's got some amazing folding skills for
Yeah,
sure.
amazing. Anyway, thought that was super cool. Like Jen said, completely ran across it serendipitously, not being informed of it beforehand, which apparently also informed people in backdrop communities about it. But yeah. Anyway, super awesome. Okay, let's see. General discussion. So some items that people wanted to discuss. BW Panda posted this week asking if we could move the documentation for the backdrop issues repository into a GitHub wiki instead of using the code repository. The issue number is 4861. And I think that we're kind of in agreement at this point. Jen, I saw you posted a comment just a couple minutes ago.
Yeah, and this is mostly devil's advocate, but in general, what's in that repository is a lot of instructions on like how to do things, like how to update the Docker repository and stuff that really is documentation and should be someplace that's more accessible to people. But there also happen to be a collection of like business only issue templates that we happen to shove in there also just because it's like lists of how to things. And so I was like, I have no problem with documentation being moved to the wiki, but like I don't know if the issue templates, if it's like if there's any value to them being in the wiki. um, but everything else I think would make a lot of sense to be somewhere better, or even the documentation website, like anything would be better than where they are now. I think this is just what we had at the time we needed to make the list.
Yeah,
So
it's kind of a good question of like, is the wiki really an improvement? The wiki is just empty right now. Oh, I guess actually that's not true. There's one thing in here, which honestly, I have no idea why this is in here. Um, it's just like, uh, yeah, Tim was just putting it somewhere. One thing about the code versus wiki is that usually the code the process for getting into the code is a little bit more onerous. That it's like, you make a pull request, there's usually an approval process, etc. But there isn't really that for this repository. Like we don't have any checks or anything like that because there is no
uh,
code in this repository. It's literally
right.
just issues. But I do kind of also, I mean, maybe this is thinking way too far ahead. If it were possible someday for us to bring back together the code repository and the issue repository at some point, it would be nice that then the wiki would be used for stuff like this. The code would actually be the backdrop code base, and the issues would then be the issues. And so that separation is good. That it would be a nice place to have everything all together.
Yeah.
Um,
And honestly, like for the issue templates, I would much rather have those be like private GitHub issue templates, right? That we could use the
that
way you'd
makes
normally use
sense.
normal issue templates. But the problem is that they're only like used by us. They're not used by everybody who's creating an issue. And all of the other templates are like to help people who are trying to figure out how to use the backdrop issue queue. And adding these in there, I think is just going to confuse them.
Yeah, I mean,
So it could
there's
be
a
that
ton of them,
GitHub
so
adds that feature in the future though, right? Where it's like these issue templates are only available to, committers or admins or whatever. And if that happens, then this would be a non-issue anyway.
yep. So I think generally we're like, yeah, I don't see any reason why not, but also the reason to do it isn't really that strong at this point either.
I mean, I think it's clear for everything else. Like all of the other how-tos makes more sense. as documentation or wiki pages.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, we can move that over to the wiki. I don't think that'll be an issue at all. Yeah, okay, so that's issue 4861. We're all coming to agreement there. Let's see, there's a new issue. Am I still sharing my screen? No, I'm not, but I will. Again, there's a new issue that is in the 125 milestone. 125 will be coming out. Gosh, what is it? May 15th? Seems so far away. And it's this issue that is a nice little update to allow theme info files to specify whether or not they want their JavaScript added to the header or to the footer. So currently the scripts array in .info files is doesn't have this location here. It's just scripts, and then it's a list, and then you just add items there, and this now allows you to specify whether or not you want that top or bottom part of the page. Here's an example. So yeah, kind of interesting little addition. I'd like to actually see, I'm not quite sure what the use case is here. I'm sure that there is one, otherwise it wouldn't have been filed. But yes, pretty straightforward way to add this functionality, I believe.
Yeah, this looks great, and it's already RTBC.
Yep.
Also, just throwing it out there that having a whole bunch of scripts added to the header is really bad for page load speed.
Yeah.
And right now, that's the only tool we have for themes. And so this might also go to our like performance metric, that this could make a whole bunch of backdrop sites generally faster if themes now have the ability to add things into the footer. So love it.
Super. Also in the category of quick fixes, the upstream for Pantheon, we had this long issue that we've been discussing, I don't know, in meetings a couple times now, but Irina is working on putting together demonstrations to, Irina Zax is working on putting together demonstrations of how to upgrade from Drupal 7 to Backdrop at various camps, and she would like to be able to do this using Pantheon as the tool to demonstrate, hey, here's your Drupal 7 site, let's move it to Backdrop. And she kept running into this kind of obscure problem that the upgrade from Drupal 7 to Backdrop was crashing when updating the URL alias table. But after a lot of testing, we found out that this problem only occurs on Pantheon, which is the platform she's trying to do these demonstrations on. If she was using anything else, it probably would have been fine. But the reason why it was occurring on Pantheon is because Pantheon's database, MariaDB version, is like way out of date. Hasn't been updated since the Pantheon upstream was created back in 2015, it looks like. Or actually just not specified, maybe. Let's see. Here's the pull request. Yeah, so it's just not specified, I guess. And if you don't specify anything, then it uses this absolutely ancient version of MariaDB. So this little quote little change to the Pantheon upstream brings MariaDB up to a current version, and also in theory will solve this upgrade problem. So we're hoping to make that change soon. I think that yeah, Gregory is asking, hey, let's get this merged. I think Laren and I are both a little bit gun shy about it though, because just telling everybody's backdrop sites to upgrade to 10.4 on Pantheon. I don't have a whole lot of experience upgrading Pantheon database versions, and so it makes me a little nervous. If anybody has more experience with that than I do, I'd love to hear if this is likely to cause any problems.
I don't have, I don't know. I have a bunch of newer Pantheon sites that might by default be running newer versions, but I haven't ever tried changing my MariaDB version on Pantheon. I'd be willing to do that for some of my backdrop sites if that's valuable.
Oh yeah.
Just to see.
Yeah, that would be That would be
Okay,
great.
let me give that a try on 1 or 2 today. I'll add a note to the issue.
I would also be curious what actually ends up happening if you specify a database version in your
Pantheon YAML.
Pantheon YAML, and then you get the conflict because the upstream then modifies the Pantheon YAML too. I guess that those sort of conflicts happen all the time for core files like htaccess and settings.php. So maybe this isn't an unusual problem to have. Okay. Well, those are the items, those 3 that I had specifically called out for today's meeting. I was generally taking a look at the 125 milestone. We have a lot of the same things as before. Most of these got bumped from 124. My issue that I'm advocating for allowing text formats for field instance.
Ooh.
I haven't actually made any progress on this, but there's still a pull request. I'm now actually advocating for this one. BW Panda put it together a while ago, and yeah, I'm looking forward to getting this completed. After this, my next item is hopefully going to be making it so that extra fields, extra fields, can have settings so that you can configure things on the display form for a content type for things other than fields. So those are things I've got slated. Yeah, do you guys have anything else you would like to discuss? Small group, small discussion today, maybe.
How do we move half of the existing WordPress sites to Backdrop?
It's tall order.
Let's say quarter then. All right. Well, we'll keep it manageable. Anyway.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of this software. There's a plugin for WordPress that's like a drag and drop builder thing where it's like that you build out the entire page using a layout builder type thing. It's a page builder. It's not a blog post builder. It's literally like you assemble all the blocks on the page. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? I know it's
Yeah.
pretty vague, but there's a hosted service for it that it's literally like they sell it as a hosted service, and then it starts I think you even get to choose your provider, like if you want Linode or DigitalOcean or WP Engine.
Oh, yeah?
But then they
Divi? Is it called Divi? DIVI? Does that sound familiar?
DIVI?
Yeah. No. It calls itself the ultimate WordPress page builder. And there's like a whole bunch of really popular WordPress themes depend on it. I don't know exactly how it works. That might not be it.
Yeah. It's funny because I think that this might be another alternative.
Oh.
Well, anyway, where I was going with all of this, though, is that, yeah, I think this is something different. Where I was going with all of this, though, is that it's interesting the way things are heading in the world of WordPress, that WordPress has stayed kind of static for a very, very long time now. That you get a lot of crazy innovation and crazy systems that are quote WordPress, but really it's like an entire massive application that just so happens to use WordPress. And exactly how much overlap there even is between WordPress and these other systems, I think is really fairly minimal, because WordPress doesn't have any fundamental tools like views or fields to actually leverage. And so these tools end up, just making their own database tables, having their own interfaces, and there's no, as far as I know, like form API or anything like that. So they just build out their entire mechanisms for like displaying entire forms, the form API, like form structures, everything all from scratch. And then they just so happen to use like expect a WordPress like database and put their little menu entry into the sidebar of the admin area. But where I was going with that, Luke, is it's kind of interesting that these tools, a lot of them, their integration into WordPress is not really that strong. I don't think they're
Yeah.
applications that just so happen to put their menu item into WordPress. I don't really know where like where the opportunity is there. Like those applications could probably be put into other stuff as well, like Backdrop, but I'm not really sure what the benefit would be, between having this thing shoehorned into WordPress and having it shoehorned into anything else,
Yeah. Well, I mean, Civi CRM is kind of like that, right? So
Yeah, a
Civi
lot
CRM
like
has its own interface, and whatever platform you have, like boom, you've got their whole system of menus with their own thing. But they're able to deliver the content into the data structures that can be used by the rest of the things. So maybe that's an opportunity for these other things. Maybe there's a common thread that from their perspective, a relatively easy integration to have this stuff come out into a place where it could be manipulated and the user interface taken care of with the powerful Backdrop tools, right? Yeah. I experienced at one point in my Drupal days, there was this one integration that I came in and just sort of did an analysis of and went through the code to see how they were doing what they were doing, and discovered that the theme they had was doing an API call to the system, bringing back, building HTML tables, and then outputting that to the interface. So it was just using Drupal, early version of Drupal 8 in this case, as a way to access the PHP interpreter. Like it wasn't using any of the internal things at all in Drupal. And it struck me as a real shame because it would have been better for them to have pulled in these things and then created nodes and taxonomy terms and users and all the things, and then you could have site built the heck out of it. And so there's probably things like that in WordPress. I mean, this seems like a good thing to look into. Are they doing that in WordPress because that's all they can do? And maybe we could tap into the more ambitious users within that world who would like to be able to do more with the stuff that they get back from those calls.
Yep. Yeah, it's both the I don't know, it's funny. It's both the blessing and the curse to WordPress, and the curse and the blessing to Backdrop. Like they're opposite problems, where it's like WordPress can integrate so much stuff into its theme that it just like doesn't pay attention to anything that's in WordPress, and it just shoves everything, all this functionality, into a theme. Versus Backdrop, the theme is in control of so little that it's hard to build an entire website in the theme alone, because you have to use the other tools that are within Backdrop, the content types and fields, in order to get the presentation that you want. You have to make them work together. Yeah, but it's been, I don't even know if it's the reason for WordPress success, though. The way that themes have so much capability in WordPress, or just that themes just kind of go off the rails so frequently in WordPress. I mean, you could make themes go off the rails in Backdrop, and just have them do all kinds of things that themes weren't really intended to do. it's just that you'd probably get an awful lot of flack for it, like
Well, in themes, I mean, it's one of those things. It could be, and I'm not sure about this, but it strikes me that WordPress might have accidentally discovered a market, right? Like that they discovered that there's a desire for kind of a portable plugin application platform that you can create a WordPress theme that's an application that does something, and you can bolt it onto something, and then use pieces of both, even though they're sitting there independently. And we've touched with recipes and things like that, and applications, and back in like the Panoply world and things like that. Like there's clearly a desire out there for being able to put together the modular solution without having to be enough of an expert to architect that modular solution. You kind of just want to buy it, install it, and only change the things you're unhappy with. And I mean, profiles and distributions, and I mean, there's been enough attempts at this that we know it's not easy. Because that would have worked. But I think it's worth keeping an eye on still, like somehow, like that's it's such a never ending request that we know the world wants it.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not being I'm not John. Like, yeah. We've been here before.
I know.
Yeah, I think that I might just end for today, because I don't want to get into the what if spiral.
Oh no, I wasn't suggesting that at all.
Jen or Luke, do you guys have any other topics? I'm going to request technically oriented.
No,
I don't have any other topics, but I did update my Pantheon YAML and it didn't do anything.
Oh.
I don't think. I mean, it says it did, but my status report still reports. Well, let me check my live site and see if it's any different. But it doesn't report the version I told it to include. I said to bump to version 10.4, and that's not what it says in the status report. It says 5.3.
5.3.
Yeah, 5.3.
So that's probably MySQL, not MariaDB then.
Does that mean my site's using MySQL and not MariaDB?
I don't know, actually. Let's see, we had Tim join us here right at the tail end. I'm not sure, Tim, if you have anything to say, but we were thinking about wrapping up here.
No, it's the same as the live site. Live site also reports version 5.5.3.
It's one of the turkeys that's taking over Tim's keyboard, and
yeah. Okay, well, let's wrap up for today, and we can continue to coordinate online about the MariaDB update for Pantheon. And yeah, thank you to the two of you for being here today, and we'll catch everyone again next week. Oh, there. Yeah. Hi.
Sorry.
Welcome to the very, very end.
I was having a hard time getting connected there.
I just wrapped up, but do you want to say anything before we go? Okay.
Just happy meeting everyone. I just got to my hotel in Florida and thought I would see if the meeting was still happening. So.
Hey, welcome to Florida.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you.
Do you have any news regarding happenings that you're planning on? Any backdrop activities? I imagine you're there for Florida Drupal Camp.
I am. So I believe Justin is here. So look forward to, I don't think we've ever met in person. And, we'll probably do a BOF or something. And then we have a session on providing a soft landing for Drupal 7 sites, which will talk about backdrop, but it's not backdrop exclusive.
Super.
Yep. If
Okay.
anybody's at Drupal Camp Florida and wants to chat, connect with me.
Is there any remote access to it?
I don't think they're doing any live streaming. No,
All right.
not sure, but
Maybe videos after.
yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well,
Have
that's
fun.
it. Thank you so much again, and we'll catch you next week.
Yeah.
So, bye, folks.